Hello folks, this is Aaron over from Eastern USWX Vinyl Freak 89. Thanks for joining me again this afternoon. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the features on the GFS and also the current situation for our March 5th setup, which is it's coming close, and we're starting to get to crunch time where we need to see what's going to happen with this system. So the trend in the GFS that I had mentioned last night does continue this morning. It's definitely definitely something we need to keep our eye on. Although there is one change with the way that it's handling the southern branch feature. We'll have to watch to see if that's a fluke or what goes on. But we're going to just go ahead through it now. This is the 16Z Rock. So it's valid around 11 o'clock this morning, and we can see, of course, here's our main subtropical jet feature that currently the GFS takes like this and tracks right up along the eastern side of the trough. It really doesn't want to keep this system separate, or phased in with the main trough. And again, you can see here's where the trough is getting carved out in here. Southern branch feature, here's our main disturbance just starting to come on shore, so we're going to start to see some better sampling with it. Southern branch disturbance in here, and the Pacific disturbance here, and the Arctic jet disturbance sitting up here. So of course, here's our clipper this morning. Interestingly, the GFS is a little bit slower now with splitting that 50-50 low, and that might also have some implications for this system. But it's definitely trying to cut off, and this is going to what's going to move into our classic position for the 50-50 low. And even, here's a little bit of southern branch energy with this system that's moving by as well. And of course, you can see here's the ridge axis that's going to move off toward the northeast, and what's going to create the way for our system sitting in here to cut off from the flow. So that's the situation we're looking at this morning. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the GFS last night said. We're going to do a quick recap there, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the new GFS at 12Z. So first thing we're going to look at here is our older GFS. Hopefully that thing clears away in a second. This is this morning's GFS. Sorry about that. This is this morning. Sorry, no, this is the 0Z GFS from last night. And again, remember I highlighted that the jet is weaker and further north. You're seeing less of a negative tilt in our first system up here, and the system's hanging back. So let's keep in mind the trough axis right now is sitting over like Colorado, eastern Colorado, in this area in here. So keep that in mind when we're going to look at the system this morning. Again, strong jet coming around the back side. That's why this thing digs, cuts off from the main flow, and you get the nice cutoff flow that goes in here and up. So the GFS this morning is a similar situation, but further back. Again, let's go ahead and take a look at that now. You can see the main axis is over central Colorado now, and it's a little bit deeper, a little bit broader trough, as opposed to sitting over eastern Colorado, which is where we saw it on last night's 0Z run. And look at where the jet is now. It's much more removed to the north. It looks like a piece of the energy is splitting off here, and now you're starting to see that positive tilt sitting in here near North Dakota. And it definitely looks like that this thing wants to stay as a positively tilted trough as it moves its way on to the east, and that has big implications. Now, you'd say, okay, so I was mentioning this, and this is what should keep the system further east, so why is the thing cutting up further to the west? Well, what happens is we have this jet that digs around the backside of the system. This jet cuts off in here because we have this system which slows down, creates blocking. This is forced to go over the top of the ridge, like so, and that's why we get our cutoff system. So what we see is a trough with very weak diffluent sitting in here, very strong convergence, strong jet on the base of the trough, and so what happens is that starts to rotate. It starts to rotate around the trough, and it causes the storm to lift up. So that's why we see the situation we see on the GFS right now. However, we need to watch a couple things. Again, this piece of energy that's sitting in here is very closely related to our initial disturbance that was in the southern branch that's sitting off Baja this morning, is all the way up here at this point. This is really key, because this is what's going to allow this to have to come over the top, and that's why this thing cuts off to the west. So we need to watch two careful things. It does look like we're moving toward the more positively tilted trough situation, and it does look like a piece is going to split out in front. But what is very key now is to watch this piece of energy coming around the backside. Does it eject out something like this? like the current models are thinking, or does it sit down, go into Mexico a little bit, wait, and then come out with the main piece of the trough and take a track somewhat like this? So that is very key. That's definitely something we need to watch for the system. We're going to have a pretty good idea, I think, within about 48 hours what this thing's going to do. It's not a really tricky situation like we'd seen in the past, where we have a whole bunch of different features. It's a pretty well-formed full latitude trough, and we just need to see what this southern branch feature is going to do and what's going to happen in the northern branch sitting up here. So this is trouble area number 1, and down here is trouble area number 2. So that's all that I have for today. We're going to go ahead and take a look at things again this evening when we see the 0Z GFS, assuming the trend continues, or if not, I'll update you on the situation either way. So thanks for watching, and you guys have a great afternoon.